Thank you for being here tonight and making this possible. Each person. It's just so sweet to see everyone's face, isn't it? And to just sense the togetherness. Sense these people supporting your practice. And really the gift of your presence supporting everyone else. Just let that into your heart. So, friends, I thought what we would do tonight is I would summarize in a way the exploration we've been doing for quite a number of months on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So I thought I would summarize it tonight and kind of wrap it up, and then we'll move to a kind of a new area of the map next time we're together. And so in the meditation tonight, what I will do is invite our reflection into the 4 foundations so that we'll all refresh ourselves on what the 4 foundations are through the guidance. So I'll just say as well now that, of course, the first foundation, and these are the places we establish our mindfulness in order to cultivate wisdom. So the first place we establish our mindfulness is in the body. And so the whole body sitting, and the body and the breath in order to stabilize the attention. The second foundation of mindfulness is what's called in Pali Vedana. And that is whether we find something pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. By neutral, we mean neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And the reason the Buddha pointed us here is that this can often be an unseen trigger. If something's unpleasant, we want to push it away. If something's pleasant, we want to pull it towards us and never let it go. Not that and then if something's neither pleasant nor unpleasant, we kind of tune out. So we want to learn a more wise way of relating to unpleasant and pleasant, because there will be pleasant and unpleasant in our lives. And so how do we relate to them? And the first way of relating is to know, be able to identify, oh, pleasant, oh, unpleasant. And then settle in the body. The first foundation is a way of stabilizing and not reacting with our default patterns. Then the third establishment or foundation of mindfulness is what we call the mind. That is all the mental states, the emotions and thoughts that move through. And we want to take a look at all of these as well and learn how to work with them wisely. And then the fourth foundation is kind of how we work with the first 3 in order to respond, cultivate peace, and abandon, let go as best we can of struggle. So I'll be just guiding us in those 4 in the meditation, and then sharing some reflections. And so settling into our refuges as we begin, the refuge of the Buddha, the capacity in our own hearts for understanding and peace. Just letting yourself feel that in your own self. When I sense that, even though this is our practice, every time I turn to it, I feel a little tiny bit of uplift, a little tiny bit of gratitude, a little tiny bit of, oh yeah, I forgot. And the second foundation, the refuge of the teachings, is feeling whatever gratitude you have for the teachings that we share. And the third foundation is the community, or in Pali, the Sangha. Just being grateful for the community that supports us here. The community back 2,600 years of practice. Your communities of neighbors, families, friends. The community of nature that supports us with every breath. and the community of Treaty 6, which we like to recognize. So settling into a sense of your body sitting. Bringing mindfulness, sati, our old friend, our good friend, sati, mindfulness, into the body. Just sense what happens in your system as you settle into the body sitting. Sensing the breath in the body. Letting yourself rest back and receive the sensations of the body and the breath. Inviting ease. When the mind moves away from the body and the breath, it'll come back and then just let it rest again in this anchor. And then just with some curiosity, is there anything in your experience right now that is pleasant? Just being with that. And perhaps there's a sense of calm in the system, which may be pleasant, or contact with the feet on the floor, or the heaviness of the body in the chair. These may be pleasant. You can know them and enjoy them with an ease and a lightness. And sensing anything in the system right now that may be unpleasant. Perhaps there's a tightness in the shoulders, tightness in the back. Seeing if you can be with this with some softness as well. In a way, the body can be an ally. The first foundation can be an ally with this. You can sense the tightness in kind of the larger frame of the whole body. Sensing any other places in the body which might be steadying or calming to support us being with the unpleasant with some steadiness. You may notice also thoughts occasionally or sometimes frequently. These thoughts and other mental states that come and go in the mind. Noticing that we can rest back in a way and let the thoughts come and go, just like sensations in the body come and go, shift and change. Body sensations coming and going just since my last instruction. Breath rising, tingling, pulsing, warmth, coolness. And so many thoughts coming and going just since my last instruction. Just seeing the nature of these thoughts and sensations coming and going. And with these thoughts, sensations, is there anything that you can let go of within this stream of experience that would support your peace? Might there be a letting go of expectation that the mind be calm? Might there be a letting go of self-judgment when the mind moves to thinking? A letting go of expectation that meditation be a certain way? What happens if you let go of those thoughts? And just seeing them clearly, if they're present for you, can be a way of letting go, a way of loosening their hold. And is there anything in your experience that you can cultivate to support your peace? What happens if you look for any place in your experience where there is even a little bit of calm right now? Soles of the feet, the way the hands are lying. Resting back and letting the breath breathe all by itself. Anything you can bring attention to that's already here, that you can grow through your attention. Resting into the body and the breath and seeing if there's anything pleasant or calming there. Just resting in this anchor, coming back to this anchor for the rest of our time. Thank you, friends, for your practice. For folks who might be new tonight, welcome, welcome, or new-ish to our community. And I want to let you know the bow that we do is about acknowledging the Buddha nature in each one of us, and acknowledging our capacity, the Buddha in each person. That's what the bow is about. And of course, it's optional. So friends, I was thinking tonight of how to summarize the fourth foundation, or the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And I kind of felt into what they mean to me. And so I came up with 5 alternative titles. And I wanted to share those alternative descriptions with you, and then unpack each of them as a way of summarizing the different aspects of the 4 establishments of mindfulness. And so the first title I came up with was a handbook for the heart, mind, and body. The second title, a field guide for the mind. The third title, how to keep your car from hitting the rhubarb. If you don't know what that means, it might be a prairie saying, so that you don't go in the ditch. The fourth title I came up with was linear instructions for an intuitive way of knowing. And the fifth one is a manual of practical mysticism. And so I'm going to go through each of these and share why I think that our 4 foundations of mindfulness offer us these 5 ways of looking at our experience. We really have so the first thing, the handbook for the heart, mind, and body. It is a handbook. I looked up the definition of handbook. And says a handbook is a type of reference work or other collection of instructions that is intended to provide ready reference. That is perfect. That is exactly what the 4 foundations of mindfulness is our reference book for life, our reference book for our lived experience, our reference book for this stream of experience that is flowing through our mind and heart. And so the reference book that we just went through in the meditation, the first chapter is the body. The second chapter is the feeling tone, or Vedana, whether we find something pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And we can, of course, enjoy the pleasant. But when we want to keep it and we start planning and figuring out how to keep this moment, then we get all tied up in knots. And of course, we want to skillfully avoid the unpleasant. But when we start hating it, pushing it away, thinking it shouldn't be there, then we get into some trouble. So these are, the second chapter is the feeling tone. The third chapter are mental states. And we want to be able to see the mental states, or be aware of the mental states as they come through the mind. And often it's unwise relationship to these mental states which put us into stress. And so we want to deal skillfully with them. And 2 of the ways we deal skillfully with the mental states are A, being able to see when they're pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, so that we're not carried away with reactivity. And B, by seeing them, experience them in the body, that first foundation. So these really build on each other. And then the 4th chapter in our handbook is the 4th foundation. And Venerable Nalio includes 2 processes in here. In his study, there are 2 processes of liberation in the 4th foundation that are common to all the translations of the 4th foundation in the Sanskrit and Chinese and other translations. And those 2 processes of liberation are the hindrances, how to work with difficult states of mind, and the 7 factors of awakening, how to support the awakening ecosystem in the mind and heart. And so in the 4th foundation, we learn how to diminish the patterns of mind that lead to suffering and cultivate those that support the mind to release in liberation. And we did that in our meditation tonight as well. I asked you, what could you let go of or renounce that could support your peace? For me, expectation and expectations of perfection is something that I could renounce pretty consistently. I would say it's out there a lot less than it used to be. Anybody else share that particular pattern that you could, renounce every so often? Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the skills in the 4th foundation. The other is cultivating the wholesome, what's already here usually. Did anybody find any calmness or stillness when you looked for it, when I invited you in the meditation? Yeah. So we can cultivate. So this is our field guide, or this is our handbook for handy reference. Don't you love that? I just love that. Who knew? We could get a handbook for our mind. So the second title, field guide for the mind, I looked up the definition of field guide, and it says that a field guide is a book designed to help the reader identify wildlife or other objects of natural occurrence, like plants and animals and minerals. Or we might say our body and our mind. So our field guide helps us to see our mind and body, our whole being, as a natural occurrence, as part of nature. Within the first foundation of mindfulness is a meditation on the elements that we can bring in to cultivate a sense of ourselves as earth, wind, fire, and water, just like the external elements, that we're a part of this whole process. We're a part of nature. And so we can use our field guide to help understand this. Not only our body, of course, but our mind is a part of nature. And we can see the mind as well as part of the natural process of things rising and falling and being conditioned and flowing through our experience. So right now, just check in. Let's check in to use our field guide for a moment. Check into your own mind and body, your whole being. And so let's kind of identify what's happening in your nature right now. And the way I want to ask you to check this out is, what weather system is present for you right now? If you were a weather system at this moment, what would it be? What weather system would you be? And we use our field guide to identify what's happening in the body and the mind to get a sense of this weather system. And if there's 2 or 3 people that could put a word for your weather system in the chat box, I'm going to make a weather report. A collective weather report. Got someone who's saying that their weather right now is foggy. Another person is experiencing a calm after the storm. Another person is experiencing calm. Another person is experiencing blustery weather. Another balmy weather. And someone else is experiencing a thunderstorm at this moment. So just take a little breath, a big breath. Someone else is breezy. Someone else is cloudy and dull. Someone else is experiencing a steady June breeze. Just let yourself be with what's here as easily and gently as you can. One of the wisdoms of the 4 foundations is that this weather system, if we can allow it, will pass and shift and change. And one of the ways we can support that is to let it be here with steadiness in the body. So let the thunderstorm, the breeze be here resting while you're resting in this whole body. Here's what Wes Nisker says about this. He says, the foundations of mindfulness are practices for knowing our belonging in the flow of life and our interconnection. Contemplating the body and the mind does not mean contemplating my body and my mind. Through exploration, we will come to know this whole system as an organic process, as coexistent with the elements of nature and all of afterlife, of all of earth life. These exercises guide us through our body, emotions, and mind, and in the process reveal our nature as nature. So we're going to check in on the weather system at the end of this talk. And just see what the weather's doing then. See if it stayed the same. It might stay the same. See if it changes. So that is our mind as a field guide, or the four foundations as field guide to the mind. And so it can help us identify natural occurrences. And the second thing about a field guide is that it's usually local. We take it into the field. Is anybody in the field of the mind and the heart right now? We're always out in the field, right? We need our field guide. Don't forget it. Could be helpful. So the third way I think of the 4th foundation is how to keep your car from hitting the rhubarb. And Ajahn Chah has a wonderful story about Ajahn Chah, great Thai forest teacher. And he gave a set of instructions to a student, and then he gave a different set of instructions to a different student. And these two students got together and started arguing about, no, he said this. No, he said this. No, he said this. So they went to Ajahn Chah and they said, how come you told us 2 different things? And Ajahn Chah said, it's like this. If I'm walking behind a group of students and I see one person veering to the right and they're just about to hit the ditch, I'm going to call out, go left, go left. But if I see another student veering to the left and just about to go in the ditch, I'm going to call out, go right, go right. And so different instructions are appropriate, or different means, skillful means are appropriate at different times for different people. And so we can help to keep our own selves between the ditches from hitting the rhubarb with the four foundations. I'm going to share the screen and share with you something that Thich Nhat Hanh says in this regard, because one of the things that can help us hit the ditch or hit the rhubarb is difficult states. And so I found on the internet, of course, he's so poetic. And so there's so many people on the internet put his quotes in front of these beautiful pictures. And so this is a quote from him. He says, if we practice mindfulness, we always have a place to be when we're afraid. That rings true for me because I've had a lot of fear in my life. And so if I'm afraid, turn to mindfulness. This can help. And then the other part of the 4th foundation that we learn in the 4th foundation is that if we have peace, we can have peace just from the 4th foundation. And this is another quote from him. When we are mindful, deeply in touch with the present moment, our understanding of what is going on deepens, and we begin to be filled with acceptance, joy, peace, and love. And if you think that that's like, and so that's in the fourth foundation, this sense of how do we cultivate peace, joy, and love. And what he's saying here is through simple attention to what's here, through clear seeing, which is the third foundation, which is also supported by the second foundation, which is supported by the first foundation. And so this simple joy of being present to what's here is one way of cultivating peace in the heart. Thich Nhat Hanh, Carol and Bob and I were on retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh quite a while ago now. And I just always remember this teaching because it shocked me. He said, "Are you enjoying your breathing right now?" He said, "If you're not, you're doing it wrong." This is the fourth foundation, that we can just breathing can be peaceful. Just breathing. And he asked us, is there a way that you can breathe right now that's pleasant? And we can ask ourselves that right now. And so this is some of the ways we can keep our car from hitting the rhubarb. Cultivating joy, peace, and love, and learning how to work with difficult states. And so the fourth part of this, the instruction, or the fourth title was Linear Instructions for an Intuitive Way of Knowing. And so these four foundations build on each other, and they're so concrete. They're so concrete. In a way and here's just one more Thich Nhat Hanh quote on the fourth foundations as a way of building on each other. Says, the four establishments of mindfulness are the foundation of our dwelling place. Without them, our house is abandoned. No one is sweeping, dusting, or tidying up. Our body becomes unkempt, our feelings full of suffering, and our mind a heap of afflictions. When we are truly home, our body, mind, and feelings will be a refuge for ourselves and for others. Isn't his face beautiful? Just drink that in. I picked this picture because when I was on retreat with him that time, I was I was standing beside where he was walking, and he just stopped and he looked at me just like that. It was just quite a moment. Whoops, I almost turned this off. What more do we need but a face of Thich Nhat Hanh? We could stop right here. So this is, I like the fact there's a linear, concrete way of knowing. And in a way, it takes the mystery out of meditation. There's no mystery. We just step by step by step. But in another way, this practice is all mystery. This practice is a step by step by step invitation into mystery, into an intuitive way of knowing. Gil Fronsdal talks about this. He says, we put in that our practice is a cooperative effort. We put in some of the effort, and then the practice kind of lifts us up from there. And we can see this in the fourth foundation of mindfulness, in the 7 factors of awakening. The first factors are mindfulness, investigation of what's happening, the energy, and joy. And if we can touch into any kind of joy about the moment, the joy, simple joy of being present, the joy of breathing, the joy of community, then that joy can carry us and lift us, can carry us over to the other wing of the 7 factors of awakening, which are the calming factors of calm, concentration, and equanimity. Joy can carry us there. And so we want to be able to look for quiet joy as often as we can and let that carry us. But it's just not joy that carries us. The practice itself carries us. If we sit in the morning, it's like we're setting the yeast in the bread, and that yeast can carry the kind of fill the day. The more we practice, the more we enter that mystery, the more we enter this intuitive way of knowing that is just awakened, this intuitive way of knowing. And this leads me to the last title, which is that it's a manual of practical mysticism. As we enter this kind of intuitive way of knowing, we touch into what Wes Nisker calls practical mysticism. For example, he says, we learn that we, for example, are quite literally one with the oceans, the atmosphere, the sun, and the earth. And with the wisdom of impermanence, we realize that my body and my mind are not really mine. Buddhist reflections on the shifting nature of earth, air, fire, and water can help shift our identity from the personal to the universal. And what is that connects us to the mysticism, the mystical, the larger than ourselves nature of this practice. So just for fun, let's check in with the weather system again. How's your weather system? Is it the same or different? If the thunderstorm's here, is it the same intensity or is it lighter? Or is it bigger? Just checking in. Oh, I've got some messages in the chat. Someone is saying that there's a rainbow now. Someone else is saying that the calm after the storm flowed into sunlight on water. Someone else has said that their weather system has changed. Now it's a slight ripple on the surface of the waters at dusk. Someone else is saying a moonlit night now. So friends, I want to kind of wrap this into, someone else is saying not as cloudy. I want to wrap this in with a poem from Rosemary, from our Rosemary, Watola Tromer. This sense of the four foundations of mindfulness as being a practical practice and also a practice that connects us to the sacred. And for me, I understand the sacred as anything that connects me to something larger than myself. So it's the practical sense of practical mysticism. And so here's Rosemary. This poem is called Fleeting. And she has prefaced it with a quote from the Dalai Lama. And this is the quote. There is no need for temples. Our own mind, our own heart is our temple. And the poem is this. Today, the temple went to the post office. Of course, it wore its mask. There, it met several other temples, also masked, some of them in a hurry, as temples sometimes are. The temples joked with each other about haircuts and lost keys and ripped old shirts. All day, while working on the computer, while making macaroni and cheese, while taking out the cat litter and feeding the fish, the temple managed to forget its own templeness and the templeness of others. Until finally, while weeding milk thistle in the garden, a bell did not ring and a clarity came. A brief brush with infinity that lasted a millionth of a second. And there, between the beets and the sunflowers, was a moment when the temple was a temple. How quickly a thought comes in. Even now the temple wrestles with its own metaphor, tries to discern its mystery by disassembling itself into piles of knowable parts, bricks of meaning, tiles of purpose that, somehow, when dissected, don't resemble a temple at all. Let's settle into the temple for a moment of silence. May the merit and the benefit of our practice here nurture our own hearts. May the handbook that we truly have for the heart and the mind nurture our practical presence in the world and the capacity to touch something beyond ourselves. May we know both of these understandings and live them fully. And may this knowing ripple out and be a cause and condition for the liberation of all beings everywhere. Thank you, dear friends.